Hey YouTube, time for another update. So I've had these corals in for quite a while now, and I added a couple since the last video, and things have not been going too well, I must admit. But we got to keep it real on reef channels because we all have problems with our aquariums, and we can all try to help each other. So as you know, I dosed some Vibrant. It wiped out my algae issue. That was kind of getting under control, but I figured, well, let's just try it. And it worked. And then I did a second dose, and then it just obliterated all the algae, sent my nitrates to 0, sent my phosphates to 0. So I started a regimen of cleaning all the dinos that had appeared by using a lime wood stone on rigid airline tubing, rigid tubing with a lime wood stone, and then just dipping it into the sand bed, and all the dinos would come up. So basically bubble scrubbing with a wand of a lime wood stone, and then that would just raise them out of the gravel, and they would, then you would I would shut my current off, and all the dinos would sit at the surface like a brown, they would cling together on the surface while the bubbles were still going, and the current was shut off. And then I would throw a paper towel on top of the water, and I would suck all the dinos up. And I did this for like 4 or 5 days straight while overfeeding or just feeding a lot. And that helped get everything under control. And now everything seems great, except that Aptasia that I was worried about, well, he made babies. So now I've got Aptasias, and I mean, they're not visible now, but I know where they're at and here and there. And it's kind of disheartening. They're popping up every day. So I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. There's one there, there's one there, there's one right here. They're like every day there's another one. So I don't know what I'm gonna do to get them under control. I can hit them with super glue. I think I'm gonna probably do that, and maybe that'll stop them. So next time I go to the hardware store, or in a day or whatever, or Home Depot or Walgreens, get some super glue gel and gel them out. It looks kind of ugly like this one I did, but that'll cover up with algae soon enough. Now, during the dinos, I had a pretty good coral. The coral seemed to be growing. Everything seemed to be healthy. And then the dinos went away and everything seemed good. And then all of a sudden my coral started dying. So as you can see, the bird's nest that was growing like a weed, the polyps just totally peeled off of it. So I took it down. And there's actually like a strand of green polyps there that are still hanging on for dear life. Maybe they'll grow into a new bird's nest, I don't know. But to have coral growing rapidly and then all of a sudden the tissues start tearing off, it really is frustrating. The other one that went is this one here. That was green and tall, and it was doing great on the frag rack. I guess it doesn't like that spot. I don't think it wants the current as much as I thought it would. And I clipped it off where it was really decaying, figuring I could stop it. It didn't work, so that one's on its way out. And this one, which wasn't doing anything but looked good, just suddenly the same thing started happening. So I don't know. This one here seems fine. It gets bigger and bigger. The one side is a little bit rough, but that's the side that hits the current. So it's probably wanting to grow in one direction. So I'm okay with this one right now. This was my favorite coral. It was in there. It had nice polyp extension, which you can see the polyp starting to extend, but they all went back in and it got pale. So I moved it from an upper portion near these other Montiporas where it was right here, and I moved it down, and I gotta get like a frag rack and glue it onto a rock or something. And those polyps are now extending that I moved it down. So maybe it's light issues Maybe I just have too much light at the surface of the tank and I'm just scorching these guys with too much current, not enough nutrients from the vibrant, and too much flow. It's probably a combination of things. This Montipore was doing really good. It's growing. I see it extending onto the rock work in the back and on the sides. But I see a little pale patchy area, which I'm not sure if the camera can pick up, but I see it. And what am I going to do about it? I have no idea. I don't want to do drastic changes. This raspberry parietes, I think it is, it's doing okay. It's hanging in there. This holiday season's greetings Montipore, it's getting bigger, although the color is not that great, so it's probably not happy either. This deal, I see a little skin flake off on there, so I would consider that a failure. Same thing with this one. I can see the tissue coming off. Fail. These Duncans are going wild. They get really big and there's like 3 heads popping, so I'm doing something right with those. This hammer's just getting bigger. It's doing well. I'm getting a lot more zoas growing here to getting onto the rock work. My garden is coming along. This Acan, I think it is, or Acan Lord or something, that's doing pretty good. I got this one. It's doing well so far. This one's doing good. This one was really big and doing really well, and I see some receding of the tissue, so probably not doing so well. But its neighbor has like 4 heads on it, so it kind of got more heads going, so maybe that one's doing okay. I had another Duncan over here which didn't do well. I'm not sure why. It was exactly the same species and color as that one, and this one does great. And that's about it. The Zeniths stopped dying off. They were dying off during the dino and the low nutrient phase, but now that the nutrients are kind of rising, my nitrate's going back up, and phosphate is actually looking like I have something in phosphate. Not much, but a little bit in coloration on a Salifert test. So the coralline algae is doing good, although it grows and then it slows, and then some brown, rough, hard algae grows onto that coralline algae, which kind of like pisses me off. And then I get new coralline algae like that one right there, and the one that's coming near those polyps. And then it slows down, but it's also starting to show up all over the rock. So yeah, that's the way it goes. It comes and goes and grows in different ways. It's getting on this scraper, and it's getting back up on top of the pump. So I had some algae that I had bought from Algae Barn. I put it in my other tank, and it was doing okay. And then once I started seeing I had nitrates, and I started seeing a little bit of algae growth in here, I put some in here and it looked really nice. I had like little growth areas of algae and sea lettuce and red algae. It made the tank really look sharp, but the snails and crabs ate the shit out of it. So that was not a good idea, I guess. So I'll wait until there's more algae growing in the tank, and then I'll keep the other algae in my other tank and let it harvest in there, and maybe try to move it into here again. But with these hermits and the snails, they jumped on that algae sea lettuce that I put in here, and some of the red algae that I had going. And maybe it'll take a foothold. Here's a little bit of green sea lettuce in there. I was hoping it can kind of latch on to the gravel and start growing a little bit, but that didn't work. So all in all, the fish are healthy. I don't have a big algae problem. Some of the corals are doing okay, some of them were not. I bought a mix of different corals to see what would take and what would not. So I guess it's not a total fail, but it is a little bit frustrating when you see something growing and then suddenly overnight everything just changes. So it'll be basically maybe measuring par to figure out what my light really is, if I could rent a device to do that locally. Maybe keeping control of my temperature a little bit more. I think I'm fluctuating when the lights are on all day, more than I'd like. So I'm gonna probably heat the water up and add a fan. That way there's less heater going on and off, and maybe a little bit higher temperature in the tank to match the lighting temperature. And the fish are happy. I'm mainly into fish, so they're doing really well. Everybody gets along in here. So my DKH is at 11. The pH is around 8.15. Calcium is like 480. Magnesium is 1500 or 1350 at least. Temperatures are around 77 degrees. The water's clear. I got a little bit of carbon in there, thinking maybe an irritant is killing these corals, but who knows? This is the hobby. You gotta kill a lot of shit just to get something to grow, I think. It's kind of frustrating, but that's the way it is. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not gonna do anything except for minor adjustments to temperature, maybe lighting. Not changing the lighting, but never putting corals too high up against the light where I thought they'd be best. Maybe they're like being burnt on underneath a single bulb before the spectrum breaks apart, you know, and because my light is, I would say, I think I got a tape measure here. Let me see. It's like 6 inches from the surface of the water. Yeah, it's about 5.5, 6 inches from the surface of the water, which is kind of close, but it's a narrow tank, and I didn't want to light my sump. That would just cause a lot of algae problems and maintenance issues for me. And I didn't want a lot of spillover into the room. So I decided that this would be what I would do. And I use this valance made out of PVC that just goes on. It actually looks like a finished piece, like some sort of canopy. And it just goes on there and it blocks the overflow. I had it measured and cut perfectly on a CNC machine at work. And so it blocks the spillover into the room. And I think the tank looks a lot better without the light going in your eyes. So that's about it, guys. I'm just giving you a quick update. No major catastrophes, but had a few, and we're just trying to get back to stability right now, and then we'll make some small moves and see what hangs on and what might come back. And that's about it. Have a good day.